This excerpt was taken from the Full and Bloom interview with producer-engineer Beau Hill. You can listen to the entire interview at fullandbloom.com. Did you have at that time a favorite vocal chain for Stephen Pearcy?
Not really. Stephen's vocals sort of evolved. It wasn't something that I had set out to do. I believe we recorded him on a Neumann U67 on Cellar. And then I tried to use like mics that were warm and that would give his vocal as much body as possible. And then on Cellar, we did his vocals on a Neve, and I used the what the hell was it called? The
1176.
1192.
Oh, sorry.
It was a inboard compressor on the Neve, and I think that's what I used on his vocal. And I think I also used the onboard EQ, if memory serves.
I'm assuming you used the Neve board on the basic tracks at Sound City?
Yeah, that same board, I guess, the one that
they sold.
Bought.
Right. Which I think they featured Ratt or maybe Stephen and Warren in that film.
Yeah, and they called me and asked me to, give them some specific information on the movie, which I was glad to do.
How was it working with Stephen?
Well, at first, it took us a little while to kind of get in sync with each other. But what wound up happening was we kind of did Stephen's vocals a little differently. Because he had been doing these songs live for so long, he kind of got into a rhythm, and it was difficult for him to kind of break out of it. So if I came up with an idea to change the melody or something like that, I'd say, so Stephen, try something a little bit different on this word. And it was hard for him to do that on the fly. And so I started singing stuff to him over the talkback. I said, try this, go da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever. And he did it. So if I kept feeding him the melodies that I was hearing and that I wanted to at least try on the song, then I'd feed it to him and he'd do it. So pretty much that's kind of how we did Stephen. So much so that when we went to pre-production for Invasion, Stephen didn't even show up. And the guys in the band were starting to get pissed. And, why won't you show up? And he said, well, Beau's going to change everything anyway when we get in the studio, so why do I need to waste my time coming to rehearsal? So we basically worked on these songs, and nobody was really sure exactly how the melodies were going to go 100%. I mean, we had ideas, but it wasn't finalized until Stephen and I went through our process line by line in the studio, which made everybody a little nuts, which I can understand because nobody really knew what it was going to sound like when we were done. But anyway, it was just a way of communication that Stephen and I kind of developed, and I'm sure he was probably quite frustrated with me, changing stuff on him all the time. But at the end of the day, the results were pretty good.
Were you doubling his vocals most of the time?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
So,
go ahead.
So what I did with Stephen, and I actually kind of continued to do this throughout my career, we would do 3 takes of the song, and depending on how his voice was, what we would do a lot of times, on a lot of those songs back in those days, the chorus repeats at the end over and over and over ad nauseum. So I would have Stephen start on the choruses at the out just to get his voice warmed up and get it where it's really sounding very Stephen-y, and then we'd go back and start recording the front of the song. And so we'd keep working until I got 3 complete takes. Then I'd call the session, and that was it. So early the next morning, I would always show up for work around 8 o'clock or so, because the guys in the band didn't like working that early. Actually, they didn't like working at 10 o'clock, which is when I had band call. But I would go in and I would do a vocal comp because I was fresh and well rested, and I could be more objective about, did we catch a fish or did we not? And then I put together the very best of the 3 takes, and I play that back to Stephen when he came into work the next day. And if, we'd listen to it and he'd say, first verse is okay, but I think I got a better second verse in me. Okay, great. Or I would say, look, the choruses are okay, but the verses suck, so let's give it another go. So we did the same procedure, and I would keep the best stuff on its own private track, and then we'd go do 3 more. And then I'd do the whole process again and see if I actually had anything on day 2 that would rival what I thought was good on day 1. If you kind of understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so that was really just our little process of how we did it. And then once we got to the point where he was singing, but we weren't beating the master comp, then we're done. That was it.
Very cool.